everybody, this is Greg Reffner on the Abstract Podcast, and we have Mario Martinez, CEO of Vengreso, host of the Modern Selling Podcast and board member and investor to many different organizations and companies. Mario, please say hi.
Greg, my man, I'm excited to be with you. Thank you so much for having me, bro. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you, and the timing of this is great because you guys just released your definitive guide to prospecting. I think it's on your third or fourth iteration or kind of update, I guess you could call it. I'd love to maybe spend most of our time diving into some of that data and kind of seeing what you guys are seeing in the market from a sales training perspective. But kind of at a high level, what were some of the surprising things or big takeaways out of that most recent report you guys released?
I think what you're referring to is our research that we completed, and this last round with over almost 1,295 respondents from around the globe, salespeople that is, and sales professionals, including some business owners inside there as well. Anybody responsible for revenue? We asked a question, and that was, what is the hardest part of the sales cycle? And we asked we gave four answers. Number one, getting the first conversation. Number two, qualifying the opportunity. Three, presenting a solution. And four was closing the deal. Now, interestingly enough, Greg, is we actually have done this research now 4 times. The first time we did it in June of 2020, and the numbers were 59% of all respondents said that the hardest part about selling was getting that first conversation, AKA prospecting. Number 2 was in September of 2020. So just a few months later, it's about 6 months into COVID. And 71% of sellers said the hardest part of selling was prospecting, getting that first conversation. Then we redid that study again in April of 2021. And we had 68.5% of sellers said getting the first conversation was the hardest part about the sales cycle. And we just completed in October of 2021, so brand new, your listeners are getting it hot off the press, and that is 1,295 B2B sellers reported that 69% reported that prospecting is the hardest part of the sales cycle. So 4 research studies done over the course of 2 years, now barely moved the needle between 58% to 72%, and sitting twice now at the 68.5, 69%. That tells you that we have a major problem when it comes to sellers being able to get that first conversation, to prospect, to be able to earn the right to win more business. Okay,
well, I guess that doesn't surprise me. Prospecting is hard. I do believe, and maybe I'm going to put an initiative out there in the world, but SDRs should be paid more because it is the hardest part of the job. You would think with all the technology we have, the Zoom infos, the LinkedIn sales navigators, the sales engagement platforms, like this should be getting easier, but it's not. It's still the hardest part. What is, from kind of your perspective, right? Sitting on the outside, looking at the world of prospecting and seeing those answers, what's your perspective on, technology's there, right? Why is this still so hard?
Great question. So first off, I've always said a fool with a tool is still a fool. So just because you throw more tech at your sellers doesn't mean they're going to be more successful. And that's uber important that anybody listening and understands that particular message. More tech does not mean more success. There actually, in my opinion, are a few reasons why prospecting is so challenging for a salesperson. And I'll tell you this has always been the situation for as long as I've been selling, for 25 B2B sales years. And it's even worse now, right? It's even worse now. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that our customers are so incredibly busy and distracted. It's the digital pollution era. So many things coming at them from social media, Netflix, Hulu, Amazon, Facebook, LinkedIn, email, phone calls, text messaging, WhatsApp, right? Instagram. There you go. So I just listed 11 things right there that and everybody's like, So it's like we got this digital pollution situation going on that we're challenged by, and it's this information overload. And so our brains are automatically filtering out anything that we don't want to hear, AKA a sales pitch, unless we're actively shopping for a solution, or we hit on a problem that we actively are trying to say, man, I wish I could solve that particular problem. And you may not even be in the look phase. You may just know that you actively have a problem. The second thing I think that's I would say paramount to solving this problem, and I would argue is a pandemic amongst sales folks, and I use the word pandemic as a global problem that we're having, and it's all around sales messaging. Our sales messaging today sucks. It sucks. It's so bad, Greg. And if you just look at your own your in-mail box, your email box.
I can't look at my in-mail anymore. I cringe too many times a day to pay attention to that anymore.
Exactly. And what we're trying to do is we're using the same old lines and tricks that everybody else is using. Today alone, I got three messages, I think, in my box that basically said, hey, I was just following up on my message that I sent you, or my email that I sent you, or I didn't get a response from, and there's no email below that. It's a brand new email. So it makes me want to write back to the person, what email you're talking about? So at least they get an engagement. But first off, I teach this stuff, so I'm not responding back to that. I have no interest. And there are best practices that go along with following up. For example, if you truly are following up, you're not going to take a brand new email and send it to that individual. You're going to take the old one and continue to build on top of that, so they have a history of what exactly it is that you're talking about, what you're saying, right? So that's just a great example. The other thing too is most of these messages are focused on the pitch and what the seller wants. And by the way, most sales reps don't have an SDR, just heads up, right? The SDR originated out of technology sales-based organizations. And usually it's like a 1-to-3, 1-to-5 ratio. Very rarely is it a 1-to-1 ratio, right? But most sales folks are full cycle. You're hunting, opening, and closing. That's what we do. So with that in mind, we're basically looking for these sales templates, and we're trying to churn out these templates that we think work, and we're just spitting it out and spraying and praying that it works. And then if you look at the third thing I would say is just the amount of competition that we have out there in the marketplace. Every day a new application is popping up to do something, and so many of our buyers are basically going mind-numb. It's mind-numbing, essentially, at how many different options there are for folks to choose from to be able to look at solving a particular problem.
Yeah, so I agree. So, I mean, I think I read a report once, and it was the rate of the number of technology companies the next 2 years is going to 5x what it's done in the past 10 years, just because cloud technology, cloud infrastructure, it is so relatively easy to build and deploy now that companies are able to push out new applications much faster and easier than they ever have before. And so it's only going to become more saturated.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think what you see happening, especially, what happened in the marketing world when, there was just a few hundred marketing tech stacks, technology applications that were out there. Now it's well over 7,000 MarTech apps, right? So today on the sales world, 6 years ago, when I started tracking this, there was just a few hundred. Now we're up to over 1,100 sales technologies that are out there. And what you're seeing is this specialized niche, a focus on a specific problem. Hey, that's phenomenal. That's great. You should have that out there. But what you're also going to start seeing is a lot more consolidation in the industry, where companies are looking to consolidate to have one full gamut, and they're taking all the great ideas that people are creating. But here's where the problem: sales leaders that are trying to, or buyers, sorry, and I'm using sales leaders as the example. Buyers in general, and I'm referring to the sales leaders, they can't spend $50 per user for this one and 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 this one, right? It's not going to happen. So there's only a limited amount of budget, and that budget usually on a cost per head for at least the sales people is anywhere between $2,500 to $5,000 per year on training and technology per rep. So you got a finite budget that you can go along with, and don't get me started on IT or HR or any of these other places where budgets are much more slimmer.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So I want to go back to a little bit of the prospecting and some of the challenges. Just in our own team, no one has an office line anymore. No one's in the office, so there's no longer a second phone number. Cell phones nowadays, they tell you when it's an unknown number, and I have it on my phone. Like, I can block unknown calls. People I don't know automatically get routed to my voicemail. Sendoso was big pre-COVID, where you picked up and you mailed stuff to people's offices. We don't have people's mailing addresses for their homes anymore, so we can't get in front of them that way. Privacy laws, GDPR, CAN spam, California privacy protection, companies are clamping down on how data can be used. Technology providers are clamping down on how data can be used. It's like the cards are not stacked in your favor when you're prospecting anywhere.
No, not at all. In fact, add some more data to what you just talked about. Driving the need for really what we're about to talk about is this what we call omnichannel approach to prospecting. Yeah. So in addition to your data, just since March of 2020 alone, and go forward a fast forward a year ahead, and that year, March 2020 to 2021, marketing emails increased by 62%, virtual events 1,000%, sales calls 28%, ad spend 22%. Again, going back to the era of digital pollution, right? This is the problem that we're dealing with. And what we end up having is stupid prospecting, stupid selling is what I call it, right? And that is, we are just throwing stuff at our buyers. And many of our leaders, again, my age and older, we're sitting that 45 and older category. And I've been selling for 25 years in B2B sales. When we started, we learned how to use phone and email. And in today's prospecting era, we're using phone and email. And we still have SDRs today doing 60 to 70 dials per day. Now that's crazy to be able to even think that you're going to be successful when the response rate to a cold call was less than 10% engagement rate or connection rate. So now with this digital pollution, more calls, more emails, more meetings, more everything, more Instagram, more Facebook, more LinkedIn, more everything, that you think that by having more SDRs making more phone calls, that changes the trajectory. It doesn't.
It's old school way of thinking. If I hire one SDR, one account executive, it's going to equal X in revenue. That's not the way. That's an old school approach to building out and scaling sales teams.
Absolutely correct. And so what we need to be thinking about is really structured, excuse me, and focused on an omni-channel approach to prospecting, which means that our stupid selling needs to turn into smart selling. Yeah. What does that mean? And that really means that our reps now have a harder job. Smarter, yes, but harder, yes. And that's because we now have to think about leveraging all these different channels that are out there to be able to engage with our buyer. Phone, absolutely. Email, absolutely. Connection requests on LinkedIn or LinkedIn period, social media, absolutely. Direct mail, absolutely. Online events, absolutely. Text messaging, absolutely. Video messaging, absolutely, right? Gift marketing, absolutely. I just rattled off 8 different ways for us to be able to engage with our buyer. And guess what? All of them have to be used.
Oh, yeah.
All of them. Because today, right now, and I'll just give you 3 specific examples of sales leaders that are our customers that on how they like to engage with Vengreso. So I have one leader, only will talk sometime between 5 o'clock and 8 o'clock on text messaging. That's it. That's the only time that I will get a response. No email, no phone, no calling. No LinkedIn messages, nothing else works. I have another one that only wants to pick up the phone. Every time I send an email message, they pick up the phone to call me. And I know that that's going to turn into a 30-minute to a 40-minute long conversation, because the first 10 minutes are shooting the breeze, talking about how you are, how they are, how the kids are, the family, right? All those types of things. And sometimes you're just like, oh, can you just reply through email? Because it only took me 4 minutes, right? But they want to be able to have that buddy system. Yep. And yet others will only respond via social media, and yet others would prefer to watch a short video. So our job as sellers have become more complex in that we need to assess which channels are the ones that somebody is engaging on, and then try to continue developing strategies around that channel to get them to be able to engage.
It's such a good point. And so ultimately, we talk about tech stack proliferation, right? The number of technologies, but it's like, you have to know how to use those. You have to know how to use them in the appropriate channels, because your prospects want to and have preference over how they engage with you. And so if all you know how to do is write an email and someone wants to talk to you on the phone, you're in trouble.
Exactly.
If someone only wants to text message you and you refuse to give out your cell phone number because your boss isn't paying for it, you're in trouble. And so you have to be in the channels that your prospects want to be in, and you have to meet them where they are, which seems so common sense, but unfortunately it's not that common. Diving into kind of keeping track of time here, Mario, the world of prospecting is tough. Like we've agreed upon that. Sales leaders are agreeing upon that. What are some of the things, maybe kind of tips and tricks, that you guys at Vengreso are doing to help your clients stay ahead of the curve? And maybe think 6 months, 12 months from now, where's the industry going that they need to start paying attention to?
Well, oftentimes I'm asked, especially as a CEO of Vengreso, is, hey, do I, hear you loud and clear, but now do I need to get one of those sales cadence tools from like SalesLoft, Outreach, VanillaSoft, Apollo, Prospect.io, Hunter.io, you name it, right? Do I need to get one of those sales cadence tools? And the answer is no, you don't. No, you don't necessarily need to do that. In fact, we at Vengreso, we go hand-to-hand combat. Hand-to-hand combat, right? So we actually have the infrastructure built into our HubSpot automation system. We have 17 tasks that we have on the outbound, 18 tasks that we build on the inbound for inbound related leads in terms of our follow-up, and they include all channels. So phone, email, text, video message, social media, as an example. And we've really built these to master the art of hyper personalization. So to answer your question, how do you solve some of these problems? Well, more tech does not equal a better result. No. Better personalization, H to H, human to human engagement equals better results. Take the time to get to know someone. Let me give you an example. So you can't do this on everyone's profile, but this would be a great example. If you're reaching out to a target prospect and you notice they speak another language, Spanish as an example, that they speak Spanish, go to Google Translator on google.translate.com, whatever it is, the free site, put in a subject line that is less than 6 words, preferably 3 or less, and have it translated into Spanish, and your opening line says, Greg, I tried my best to put it into Spanish. I don't know if it's right or if it makes actual real sense, but I saw that you spoke Spanish, and so I thought I would try it. Now that's a touch of fine class right there, right? And it's totally irrelevant, but it's the language of it's the language they dream in, right? Oftentimes it's their love language that people see that, and they see the effort that was made into doing something unique, just like what I just mentioned. And there's many other things that we teach in our Vengreso Modern Sales Mastery course that we have for really going deep onto social media, LinkedIn, and going deep in leveraging video as an example for prospecting. So with that in mind, we've got to go back to hyper personalization in terms of engaging. We also need to have a cadence, and that cadence dictates what we do when we do it. And I am so maniacally focused on the cadence that if you don't do it, you will fail. And unfortunately, we've had sales folks that have come into Vengreso that want to take shortcuts. Homie, don't play that way. We don't take shortcuts, right? And so you cannot take a shortcut. There is no fast path to money unless it comes in on the inbound or as a referral from somebody else who's taking your program already or who's taking your service already, right? It's very few times that there's going to be a fast path to money. So with that in mind, you got to work. And keep in mind, it's not until, depending on the study that you read, between touch point number 8 and 13 that you actually might get a response.
Yeah.
Most reps quit after touch number 3 or 4.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is crazy. Right. That's
exactly.
Crazy.
So you got to have that cadence and you got to have some way to manage that. We use HubSpot and we have it all automation built into our task capabilities, whereas one task is not, all 18 tasks. You don't get to the next task unless the first one's completed, and then it keeps building on after that. So it's a great way to be able to manage that particular process for those that are prospecting for us. So again, go back to what we look at is another area, and that's the sales messaging framework. So if you go to pvcsalesmethod.com, pvcsalesmethod.com, that actually has an entire training that I did personally for one of our customers, embedded a free video inside there. And it has the scripts inside there, a cold calling script. It's not cold calling, excuse me, a cold messaging script that you can download inside there. It's a great tool that allows you to be able to really construct a message, whether it be in mail, whether it be email, whether it be even a phone call, on the 3 components that you need inside of every message: the personalization, how to bring value, and how to have the right call to action. Thus PVC, right? For personalization, value, and call to action. So I would strongly encourage leaders to do that. Don't give up on the cadence. Build the cadence out. Make sure that your reps are sticking to that. Include the omni-channel approach. Now, I'll come back to the thing I said earlier: a fool with a tool is still a fool. So if I were to ask you or anybody listening in, are your reps using LinkedIn as an example? And you say, oh yeah, absolutely. They've got that down. No, they don't. Trust me. No, they don't. So what you want to be thinking about is how to go about leveraging this tool and the research and the information. We have a deal getting ready to close right now with the sales leader because they were completely skeptical of whether or not we could teach their folks to prospect utilizing digital selling techniques, social media in this case. They're utilizing a tool called LinkedIn Sales Navigator. And it's one of the greatest tools that is out there that we absolutely love. And I had the sales leader open up the Sales Navigator. Then I had him search on his company profile. And then I had him do a spotlight filter. And that spotlight filter was all of the individuals that are following your company. And then I said, what's the worst performing territory? And he said, territory X. And I said, great, put in that geography inside there. And he put the geography inside there. And when his eyes opened up, when he saw 2,000 people, of which at least on the first page alone, 30% were competitors and customers. The other 2/3 were all people that are not customers of theirs. So was it of interest? Absolutely, because now they can go after those individuals that are potentially targeting their company or interested in what their company has to say, and they weren't even utilizing those particular filters to find companies that are following their organization. Now the question is what I asked him: you'll run a strategy, right? Absolutely. What will you say? And as the sales leader said, that's why we're hiring you guys, right? So there you go. So those are some of the challenges. Is a fool with the tool, I can still give them the tool, and a sales rep, a smart whippersnapper can come right in and do that filter, do the spotlight, be like, oh, I got 1,000 leads. Great. What will you say to a person that is already following your company, means they have interest potentially in your products or services? Will you screw it up by saying the wrong things? to somebody that is potentially already slightly interested? Or will you nail it with the right messaging to be able to convert that online interaction to an offline conversation?
I love that. All right. So there's some good nuggets in here. I think I thought I had heard everything when it came to trying to be creative with prospecting, but the whole find a second language and then take the subject line in their language, that is gold. And I feel like I should probably pay you for that advice, Mario, because that was awesome.
I'll take it. I'll take the money.
$100. That was awesome. And even the following kind of, your company page, who's following you, and using that as prospecting, because those are kind of stones that typically don't get looked under, right? So that's awesome. Really kind of big takeaways as we wrap this up, Mario. The prospecting being the hardest part, that's not really a surprise for me. What really boils down to it is, for me, is that it shouldn't be this hard. It shouldn't continue to be this hard with everything out there that we have available to us in the form of technology and ability to find information on people to, as the kind of PVC, the first point, personalize the message. So I really appreciate that. And then ultimately the omni-channel approach, right? Sales leaders need to get more comfortable with their SDRs becoming mini marketers and operating in different channels, some that they might not have visibility into and being able to report on, like the number of phone calls and emails. So almost trusting your team to say the right things.
And Greg, remember, it's not just SDRs. Majority of sellers do not have an SDR team or BDR team, right? Yeah. That is a technology only situation. If you think about all the other industries that we train with, telecommunications, manufacturing, distribution, insurance, verticals, financial service, there are no telemarketers or very few telemarketers, right? Like, you're a full sales cycle. So it's sales leaders, period, need to be thinking about this. If you have anyone that is responsible for hunting, and to what you said is our salespeople are no longer sellers, they are smarketers. Sellers and a marketer combined in one, because they have to think about, what's the channel that I need to engage on? What should I send to be able to get that person to respond? What's the subject line, that is sexy subject line that will get them to click and say, okay, let me read what this is about, right? And by the way, secret tip here for you: 3 words or less. SalesLoft came out with some new information that says 1 to 2 words. That's an update to their older published information from 2017. 3 is really nice one for me that we see great success at. But whatever you do, no more than 6. After 6, bad things start to happen, right? And name personalization. So we as sellers never had to think about these things before. Never. We didn't think. And then on top of that, now you have to think about your content. So my sellers sometimes get so frustrated because we pump out almost 5 pieces of new content per week, right? 3 to 5. And my sellers have to read every single piece, read every single blog, listen to every podcast, and listen and watch every video. Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? It's a good thing, because now you're looking at hyper personalization. And now someone says, hey, I've got a budget that I'm trying to figure out how to spend it. Great. I've got an article that we just published called Sales and Marketing Use It or Lose It Budget, right? Here's some ideas that you might be able to get some great ideas. And you know that because you've read that particular article that you've got on your blog. That's hard. And most sellers don't do that. But guess what? We need to lead buyers to our solution. We don't need to put the well in front of them and make them drink, right? We got to lead them to our solution, and leading with value. And the value comes from white papers, ebooks, webinars, blogs, those types of things.
I love that. All right, sir. Well, thank you for your time, Mario. This has been amazing. Now I see why the Modern Selling Podcast is so popular, due to the amount of wisdom that I'm sure you've picked up from your guests along the way, and obviously internalize that and help Vengreso obviously be as successful as it is. So again, Mario, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, maybe learn more about what you guys offer, what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you?
Moresalescalls.com. which leads you right to one of our Vengreso pages. So moresalescalls.com is the best way, or email sales@vengreso.com. And we'll be happy to help you and or your sales team out, prospect better and sell more.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you for your time, Mario, today. This has been awesome. And enjoy the rest of your night, sir.
Thanks, buddy, for having me.